What is up, guys, and welcome back to episode 19 of our Sorare Road to our first unique series. And today we have a lot to talk about. We are going to be talking through my recent sales and purchases, our last two game weeks, and the future game weeks coming up. And today, Sorare have released their roadmap for the upcoming season, so we're going to talk through that too. And as always, guys, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Let's get into the video. Okay, so we are finally getting there in the Southampton collection. We have recently picked up a few more players. We've picked up Bazunu, who is extremely expensive. I believe he was about £50, which is a lot for a limited card. But he is under 23 for ages. He does play for Ireland, and obviously in the Championship, you do get a lot of fixtures as well. So you can see why he is priced that high. I still think it's a little bit steep, but you know, to complete the collection, just had to be done. We also have picked up Tino as well, who's going to be in most of my teams. Ward-Prowse, if he stays, he's obviously going to be one of the best scorers in the Championship. Alcaraz, and do we pick up anyone else? I think that's it for the time being. We do have bids on Lavia as well, and we obviously need to pick up Caballero and Orsic, and that will be the team complete, ready for the upcoming season. And as you can see from the transactions tab here, we have been quite busy recently. We'll talk through the most recent ones and just give a little bit of an explanation as to what I've been doing and why. So we did this trade here with Basil, but we actually got quite a good deal. Arriaga was just a card that I won recently but wasn't going to use. I believe he's out for the next like 6 weeks anyway. And then this was our first ever card in the MLS amateurs. We traded in both of those, and then also £34 of ETH for Matthias Click. He's been quite a good scorer this season in the MLS. He does have quite a few peak scores, which is quite nice. See here that he's capable of hitting 90s, which is always good, especially in competitions like Cap 270 when you need to obviously hit high to win cards. He has quite a good floor, a few bad scores here, and his price was decreased down to his recent red card. So I think this deal here is very, very good. Now, this transfer was just basically doing something which I always say you should do, and buying the backup keeper. I have Brad Stuver, so it was smart for me to pick up Bassano here, who is the backup keeper for Austin. If anything happens to Stuver, I then got the backup here ready, which is always good. Milos here, I believe, has transferred today or is going to transfer soon to Serbia. So getting rid of him for his price was quite good, and then a little bit of ETH as well. I just think it's a smart strategy, and I'm finally taking my own advice, and yeah, just making sure that I've got the backup to one of my main keepers. Now, this was a bit of a impulse transfer. I saw on Discord and also Twitter that there were some links with Sehik and Saudi, and I just don't want to take any risks, even if there's a very small chance that he transfers. It's just easier for me and my mindset if I'm not worrying about him. So I did a quick trade to actually get him out of the club quickly. The trade is obviously in favor of this trader here, but obviously I was paying for that mindset, really, that positive mindset of not having to worry about Sehik. I don't mind paying a little bit over just to actually get him out. And yeah, we picked up Steve Clark and Escobar, who I can now stack for Houston, and then Nagbe, who's just a really consistent scorer, and he also links to my striker Ramirez as well. Now, as you can see from the stats here, obviously this trade is massively in favor. You know, I probably paid like 30 to 40 pounds too much, but I'm happy to actually do that just to decrease the risk of Sehik moving to Saudi. We then did a really big trade with Maranthak here to pick up another keeper. Now, David Marshall does have some risk with his age, and there has been a few murmurs about him maybe losing his starting spot somewhere through the season, but he is their captain. I believe he's also their highest wage earner. I believe that he will be the starter. You know, he may get dropped at some point, but I do think for his price right now, he's probably one of the cheapest rare keepers that you can get, and he's only really going to be used for me in Cap 240. So I think getting rid of a lot of players here that you can see that are just basically cheap rares, and using all of those and a little bit of ETH and turning that into a starting keeper, I feel like it's just quite a smart strategy for me and also for you watching. If you do have lots of players that you want to actually get rid of, try packaging those with a little bit of ETH and selling it for a player which you want. That way you can take those assets and sort of combine them into one more sort of stable one. Um, Figueroa, I wasn't going to use. It's just a like very cheap striker. Not even sure if he's going to start. Konate is just transferred to Mechelen. He's a quite steady scorer, but nothing special. Urso has just moved back to Orlando, but I don't think he's really going to play much. And for his price, probably not worth me keeping. Tim Parker is probably one of the better players here. Has had some really good scores for me, and scores really well at home. But I don't have any St. Louis players. And also I'm trying to just get a little bit more synergy in my gallery. So having a player which I've got no real links to doesn't really work. Cardozo has his moments. He can score those like 60 to 70 scores, but I don't really have many players from the Turkish league or players that play for Kayserispor. Vigiva is quite a good scorer, but once again, I don't have any players that play for Utrecht or in the Eredivisie. I don't think. And then Pivarik has hung up his boots and is no longer playing. So yeah, we sent that trade over and £18 worth of ETH. The floors now are basically the same. The averages are a little bit higher because I believe someone here sold for a little bit more recently. I think it was Vagiva, like his floor and average is quite different. And the same as Tim Parker as well. So that's why that's a little bit inflated, but I feel like this is quite a good deal for me. And yeah, if I get a whole season or most of a season out of David Marshall, I'm quite happy with that one. So let's talk about my recent game weeks and also my plans moving forwards. So as you may have heard, I did with my first card in MLS Amateur, which is great. We've been trying for a while, and I finally sort of found a strategy which worked, which is just pairing the goalie and the defender up, and then getting some really explosive midfielders, and then a forward that can, get some decent peaks as well. So yeah, obviously St. Louis kept the clean sheet, which is great for Berkey and Parker. Some good scores here. Carlos Hill is obviously Carlos Hill. Scores really well. Ryan Gould has been on an absolute tear recently, scoring really well. Had a great matchup at home to LA, and you can see it as quite a pattern here of obviously home games here, home games here. And then Bawanga was the biggest letdown. I believe he also missed a big chance as well. If he scores, we move up into that tier 3 area. And I think we got a big down score on Ryan Gould. I believe he was on 100, which moved us down to 129th. I think we're 99th at our highest point, so it moved us down like 30 spots. But yeah, overall, really happy to win a card here, even though it was like a £1 card. It's still nice to obviously see some success, and hopefully that can carry on in the MLS Amateur and also the upcoming Common Leagues as well. There wasn't really much going on in our Cap 270 rare team. Sean Johnson, I believe, had a clean sheet till the last minute and then lost it. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, but would have been nice to see him obviously get the clean sheet on his return from international duty. Still got some really nice AA. Brooks Lennon was the captain and didn't really do much in a 2-1 loss at home to Atlanta. Shano been quite steady recently, had a difficult game against Philly, and maybe this is a lesson to myself. He's been scoring well recently, and I was a little bit scared of the matchup. Maybe it would have been smarter for me to just play him. He's been scoring well, put some faith in him. And yeah, I believe if I would have put him in a different lineup, we could have maybe hit ETH into 40. Westwood, a half decent score in terms of AA, but nothing special. And then Corey Baird, I don't believe started, which was a little bit unfortunate here. We ended 75 points off a tier 5, so we weren't really close. I'm not too disappointed here. And then obviously our focus recently has been Cap 240 rare. That's probably going to change moving forwards, but yeah, we put a lot of thought into this. We had Stuver at home. He didn't really get any saves, which is why his score is quite low here. As soon as you lose that clean sheet and you don't get saves, you're always going to get quite a bad score with keepers. Boxall unfortunately had the error which led to the LA goal. It was basically a long ball over the top. It was him and Carlos Vela running for it. He got a foot on it but didn't really clear it, and the ball sort of trickled through to Vela, who was a one-on-one, went round the keeper and just tapped into an empty net. Tim Parker obviously scored in his last game for us. He did his best, but yeah, was sort of let down by everyone else. But Doyle went off injured after like 8 minutes, which was obviously frustrating. You know, you would have expected him to get better than 35 in a home game. And then our striker Ramirez did okay in terms of AA. You know, you're getting 50 from a striker if they don't score is quite good. But yeah, when Crew scored two, I was hoping for a goal or assist there. And we finished 23.5 points off the ETH, which is a little bit frustrating. You know, if Boxall doesn't get that error, we hit it. And then also the biggest pain is that we had Maurizio Pereira, who has just been quite bad recently, and then gets 2 assists in that game versus Atlanta. And we could have put him in instead of Boxall or instead of Bedoya. And yeah, we would have obviously easily hit ETH, which is a little bit frustrating. Diego Chara we didn't use as well. We could have put him instead of Bedoya here or instead of Boxall. So we did have options this week, and we just didn't get the selection process right. Thankfully, we didn't obviously pick Fafa Pickle, who got sent off in that 3-1 loss. But yeah, I guess the positive of having some bad scores is that the L15s come down, which does make it easier for the upcoming game weeks. And speaking of upcoming game weeks, we have this for what game week is this? This 391, I believe. The upcoming game week, yeah, 391. This is going to be our Cap 240 lineup. We've got Brad Stuver at home to, I think it's Mazatlan or Mazatlan. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Don't judge me. We've got Daniel Lovett at home to the Rapids. He's back from his red card suspension. Diego Chada at home to Earthquakes. He's always better when he plays at home. Quite a sort of steady Eddie. Ramirez is at home against Louis. And then we have Pereira at home to Houston. So we've got a full home lineup, which is always what I want to aim for, especially in the MLS. There's just a really big point swing. So having all of those players at home is just a really big advantage for me. And then our Cap 220 lineup. I know obviously that you can put a limited in here. Bedoya is going to be changed to Mohamed Farsi limited card, but I haven't yet bought him. So just for now, he's a placeholder. And we have the newly picked up Steve Clark and Escobar. Obviously, they both are playing away from home against Orlando. They are quite low on the L15, so I was thinking of playing them in Cap 240. But I just think in this matchup, I probably don't think they're going to get a clean sheet, and Houston just don't score very well away from home. So they go into Cap 220 along with Nagbe, who's the recent pickup, and then Corey Baird, who is the forward for Houston. He's down as not starting. He's a little bit hit and miss with starts. When he does play, he does score well and does get nice AA for a forward. So yeah, hopefully we can get a start here. I'm kind of hoping that there's goals in this game. Because I obviously have Maurizio Pereira, it means that if there's goals in this game, hopefully he gets a few assists or even scores himself, which means that our Cap 240 lineup should do well, which I think is going to be my focus this week. These are sort of players that don't really have the best matchups. So if I hit something here, then I'm obviously very, very happy. If I don't, I'm not too bothered. And like I was saying, Farsi is going to be the limited here to actually link in with Nagbe. Now, if you play Sorare, you have obviously seen that they have recently posted their roadmap for the upcoming season. There are some interesting points in here, some good ones and some bad ones. I'll quickly run through my thoughts on them and give my little 2 cents as to what I think. Overall, I am quite happy. I say probably like 80% happy. But yeah, let's quickly have a skim through. So going along is basically them talking about adding in a monthly competition, which they are doing. And yeah, it's going to be based over a 8-game week period. There'll be a monthly leaderboard in Global All-Star. Which I think overall is very, very good. It'd be good to obviously see this added into different competitions as well. So if there's like a monthly leaderboard for like Cat 270, Cat 240, and the regions, that'd be great. And the only thing I have a question on is it says here we will be balancing existing Global All-Star rewards across long format and short format prize pools. So I just want to touch on this. If they are taking the current prize pool and splitting it across the monthly and then also the separate game weeks, then that's obviously bad, right? Because you're spacing out all of those prizes, which were quite sort of limited anyway. If they're adding in cards and prizes and that sort of stuff, then that's obviously good because you're then getting a larger prize pool. And I saw comments about how this suits Wales. It does and it doesn't. Obviously, Wales have a better gallery, so in a longer period, you would expect them to obviously win. But on those one-off game weeks, if you win, you would have won anyway, right? And that isn't going to change. You now get the added bonus of if you do well over, I believe it's your top four scores. So if you have four scores over a 8 week period, which are good, you're obviously getting those bonus prizes now. So you still win in the short term, and then you have that added bonus of winning in the monthlies as well. So overall, I think this is great. Obviously, if we can get some clarification from Sorare on the prize pool, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, as a whole, I think a lot of people have been asking for this, and yeah, I'm overall happy. They are also introducing a new kickoff game mode, which I think sounds quite cool. It sounds like some sort of interactive game mode where you can play on your own or with friends. And yeah, they didn't really go into too much details here. But if they hit on those sort of key points about making it, quick, social, a mobile first experience where you can play with friends, yeah, I think that's overall very, very good. The more sort of interactive things, the better. So yeah, there weren't really too many sort of details given here, but if they hit those key points, then overall I think this is a success. Now, I don't personally play in the super rare or unique competitions, so this doesn't impact me. But this point here about lowering the super rares in unique comps, obviously this will impact people that play in those divs. And I'm sure that if there are any issues, they said that in a 6 to 8 week period is the testing phase. If there are any issues, I'm sure they'll then change that. This point here about making no changes to the scoring matrix, I think, is quite a big one. It's sort of a little bit like hidden almost. There's like so many things going on, but them not changing this, I think, is a really good step because you need to have some form of stable outcome when everything else is changing around it. So having the scoring matrix stay the same whilst everything else moves, I think, is a really big change. And that's also paired with not covering the Saudi League. This is what I thought they would do. It makes no sense for them to start scoring a league without first testing it and understanding what those scores are actually going to be like. So by them doing this and saying that for the next season they aren't going to cover it, I think overall is a positive move for this season and for the overall health of Sorare as well. Now, the big point from this update and the sort of main focus on Twitter, and I guess there's been a little bit of uproar and questions around it, is the training and also the physio center. Basically, what they have said is that when you play players, they will lose fitness and lose experience. Therefore, they'll then start scoring less points because they're, losing fitness. This ranges from 0 to 10%, and basically it means that you have to manage players. You can't always play the same people because their fitness will then drop. And they're also then introducing rest packs, which you can then buy with coins or money, which sound like they'll basically just top up the fitness of those players. I think obviously there's been a lot of uproar about how it makes things more complicated. However, if you're new to any game, obviously it seems complex at the start. If you play FIFA Ultimate Team, there's a lot of different aspects to that. If you play FPL, all the different strategies and chips and when to use them. So there's always going to be a level of complexity for any game. The fact that Sorare have obviously made those changes, from what I've seen, they've made them with the idea of sort of gamifying Sorare and making it a bit more challenging and different strategies. And they think that overall it isn't too complex. And also there was a lot of points about, if I'm playing the same players, why should I get sort of punished? I think it sort of brings in a bit of strategy. If you can rotate players based on matchups and that sort of thing, you can keep them well rested. And obviously, if you're a manager in real life as well, that's something which you have to do with your squad and your players, manage those fitness levels. So I think overall, this is a sort of 50-50 one. I think we'll know more after they obviously bring this in. And like I was saying earlier, if it doesn't work, they've clearly said that they're going to change things. I believe the period was like 6 to 8 weeks. So if during that time frame they see it isn't working, then they can obviously change it. They are also changing the new season bonus as well, so that it ties in with the actual calendar rather than being a like sort of random time frame. As soon as the new season starts, the new season bonus ends, which I think overall is a good change. But obviously, that is frustrating that for people that have just purchased cards recently. The next change they have made is to cap modes. We're going to focus on cap 240. That's something which I play quite a lot. They've increased the score which you need to hit to 300, but you now have experience on your players and also a 20% captain bonus as well. They've used this graphic here to obviously show that this score of 251 would have hit the 300, basically highlighting that it isn't going to change too much, even though it seems like a lot of changes. It isn't going to make too many differences. If you haven't already, Sorare on a budget has made a really good video talking through everything in a little bit more detail. I'm sorry about the freeze frame there. But yeah, he talks through it here with basically if you've got a team of L15 players of 48 and you've got these new season bonuses, these fitness, this XP, this collection bonus, and this captain, this would have been your total score here. And then obviously, if you have more experience in any of these categories here, then that then boosts up. So with a little bit of clever planning and rotating your squads for like fitness and that sort of thing, hitting that 300 shouldn't be too difficult. And obviously, if you nail your captain pick as well, you're going to get a huge boost from that. So if you have someone which scores and scores a like 70, having that extra 20% is really going to boost you up. So I think overall it does make things obviously a little bit more focused on the captain pick, but also managing your team and their experience, collection bonus, fitness also comes into play as well. They're also bringing out 3D cards, which sounds quite cool. They say here they're going to have information on the front and back of them, and you'll be able to rotate the card as well on Sorare, which sounds quite cool. Anything which introduces new card types makes the cards look better, I think, is an overall positive change. And yeah, in terms of this point, which I think is quite a big aspect of Sorare, they're going to increase the amount of real life experiences, merch, that sort of stuff, going to grounds, VIP tickets, signed jerseys, those sort of things. If anything is to sort of increase, me personally, this is the sort of one aspect which I really like. The more chance that I've got to go and watch Saints play, win Saints jerseys, meet some Saints players, that's what I sort of want to actually focus on. If I can play a game and win real life experiences out of it, that's a really, really big positive for me. And I know during this video I probably waffled on quite a bit, so I'm going to actually end it there. Hopefully you've got some good info about the recent changes to Sorare. I've probably gone on for a little bit too long there, but if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments down below, and please make sure to obviously like and subscribe as well, and I will see you tomorrow for our next video.